On a bright sandy beach, the sun shines warmly on the same spiky-haired boy, who opens his sleepy eyes and sits up. He yawns, starting to lay back down again, when suddenly, a girl's face.
Whoa, what the fuck are you doing here?
Sorry, you lazy bum. I knew that I'd find you snoozing down here.
It is nap time. It's like 2 in the afternoon or something. Ah!
Are you still dreaming?
What? Dreaming? I know there was like... I was on like a stained glass kind of a circle. Could have been like maybe a clock. And I picked some options. I know I'm the best.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you know it. Just ask my friends from Final Fantasy X.
I've told you before, I don't remember.
You don't remember, Titus? The game is just like a million hours long and probably lodged in your memory forever.
Nothing.
Jesus. Kyrie.
Well, I'm happy here.
Happy? We're on a deserted... Actually, this is a pretty nice place, if I'm remembering it correctly.
But you know, I wouldn't mind going to see it.
I feel like you're being kind of duplicitous here. Would you want to stay or leave?
So what are we waiting for? And scene.
And begin the podcast. Did I do good? Welcome to No Clip. I'm Shai Ruthermond.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today, as if that wonderful opening didn't clue you in, we're going to be talking about the narrative of Kingdom Hearts up until Kingdom Hearts 3. Alright, so how did I do at remembering that scene that I haven't seen in 3 years?
You were so close.
I know, I had to have been. I was trying to take the prompting and kind of... Basically, the point that I'm trying to get across here is I don't have a great memory for the Kingdom Hearts series, and have in fact only played 2 games in it up until now. So we're going to try and cover that and make sure that I'm prepared for what awaits me in Kingdom Hearts 3. I will say I have played the first 4 hours of Kingdom Hearts 3. Looks bad. It looks real bad for my ability to comprehend what's going on.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're not alone in that at all, as I'm sure there are lots of people in the exact same boat as you who don't even really know that the other games even exist and are going to be completely lost as to what's happening.
Yeah, I personally know of at least one person who was shocked to discover that Kingdom Hearts has had games released since Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yep.
And I confirmed did not know about... Chain of Memories? Is that the one that came out between?
That's the GBA one.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I literally have a timeline in front of me and I forgot.
Yeah, and they throw you in at the deep end in Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, they do not even try to set things up. They're just like, you know this or you don't. Here we go.
Yeah, this is definitely this is probably content that's going to be Kingdom Hearts covered in the Kingdom Hearts 3 episode that's going to be coming out when this comes out, like a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. But they do have this kind of helpful list of videos that you can watch, so that's basically the knowledge base that I'm going to be building from.
Yeah, and speaking from my own experiences, I haven't actually played Recoded. That's the only blind spot I have, and I watched the video summary slideshow thing that they included on the 2.8 collection or whatever it's called. And I don't remember it. Those kinds of expository, explain what happened summaries are not really that helpful.
Okay. So, and I agree. I mean, I feel like part of me gets those to some extent. They are helpful.
Oh, it's better to have it than not. But I'm just saying, if you read that before you start, you're probably going to forget at least 75% of it by the time it's relevant.
Character names are really rough for me. Earlier today, I was struggling to remember Riku's name, and it's he's kind of one of the main dudes.
He is.
So let's start. I don't know how we can kind of go with the flow on this. we'll just open the dialogue.
You want me to start off by like giving some summaries of stuff, or you want to just ask me questions?
I was thinking something like we'll go game by game.
Okay.
And I will describe the things that I know, and then you can fill me in on what Zhang and I will commentate as I find necessary.
Yeah, and in case it wasn't obvious, Kingdom Hearts 1 is my favorite game, and I've played all of the games in the series with the exception of Recoded, as I said. So I'm going to attempt to explain all of the convoluted plot points to Chad right now.
The nuances.
Yes.
They really sell it. Actually, one bit of background information that I don't even know. I know that you've played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 multiple times, but have you played the other games, any of them, more than once?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think all of them. All of them that I've played at least twice.
All right, so I'm in for... You're going to be putting on a clinic today.
I guess.
All right. So Kingdom Hearts 1, released in 2002. I'm not looking at a plot summary, though you're going to be amazed to find that out. I remember the island scene, like what we just did. They race around, they leave the island. Well, they do it. They try and leave the island, but then it's like a black portal opens up and just kind of grabs them, all of them. Okay, and then pulls them out into the wild black yonder. Sora wakes up in Traverse Town, and here's where my memory gets a little fuzzy. They do a bunch of stuff, and then he fights a man in a boat that's the size of a planet. And I think Maleficent's in there at some point, and then you beat her, and she's like a faker. And then you find Ansem, but Ansem is Riku. And then you beat him up, and then at the end of it, you fight Ansem Boat, and then Ansem Man, and then the credits roll. Did I miss anything?
That's the broad strokes, I guess, with a comedic twist.
Yeah.
Important plot points, I guess. The dark portal at the beginning doesn't actually grab Kairi. She, I guess, is like becoming like falling to the darkness or whatever, like when Sora enters like the secret spot, right? And he finds her there. She's all like pale.
Yeah, she's kind of Blair Witching it.
Yeah, she's Blair Witching it in the cave, and she's like, Sora. And then the door opens, and it blows her into Sora, and from that point on to towards the end of the game, her heart is in Sora's body the whole time.
Okay, so I have like a kind of an idea of the concepts like that govern the Kingdom Hearts universe is that people have like a body, like their self, and a heart, and they're like separate entities for most people.
Yes.
And so Sora, in the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 3, this is a spoiler for 1 minute into Kingdom Hearts 3, is like, I've always known I've had two hearts inside. That's not Kairi anymore, right?
Nope.
Okay, that's good. But it does mean that Sora has like a crazy...
Yeah, so retroactively here, in Kingdom Hearts 1, Sora would have had 3 hearts inside of him.
That's a lot of hearts.
It is a lot of hearts.
I don't think
his heart grew 3 sizes that game.
How Sora stole a lot of internal organs. So for like the overall plot of the series, so like Kingdom Hearts 1 is your favorite game, and I think that a lot of that comes down to sort of like there's like nuance about how the game is good and is like well made and is a fun game to play, and then also like the crazy incorporation of the Disney and the Final Fantasy characters. That's like somehow that fact is like old news in 2019, and then like the nostalgia factor all kind of glom together. But I don't think Kingdom Hearts 1 has an overall huge bearing on the plot as it stands right now.
You're correct.
Yeah.
That's Kingdom
the
Hearts,
one and only time you'll say that.
Yeah. The Kingdom Hearts series has this like stigma about it that it's like super complicated story. You can't understand it. It's blah 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 darkness, blah 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 friendship, and that becomes true later down the line. Like starting with like Kingdom Hearts 3D, the writing kind of becomes like a parody of itself. But especially in Kingdom Hearts 1, it's actually, I think, like very good storytelling. And it just, once it became like a full-fledged franchise, just kept adding more and more stuff until it just became like overbloated.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, most things that happen in Kingdom Hearts 1 basically become irrelevant to the rest of the plot of the series. So it kind of works as its own standalone thing.
Right. And I know that in Kingdom Hearts 1, we get like a glimpse as to what Kingdom Hearts the thing sort of is. And Mickey gets trapped in what? Where?
The realm of darkness.
He's in the realm of darkness.
Okay, so common misconception, because when they were making Kingdom Hearts, or the original game, at the ending there, they have the big door that Ansem summons, which you assume is Kingdom Hearts, or the door to Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
But like later on, when they actually had to follow up and like explain what stuff was, they really blur the lines there because on the other side of that door is just the realm of darkness. That's where Mickey and Riku are at the end, on the other side of the door.
Which, as I've learned, is like a surprisingly like regular place, like a place that you could just walk around in.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's supposed to be dangerous. It's supposed to be not possible for a regular person to go there and like not lose their heart or get consumed by darkness in some way. But then they like to break their own rules all the time nowadays and just kind of be like,
all right.
Yeah, like it did. Like I said, like it starts out with like in the original game, they didn't obviously want to go into this kind of detail about the specifics of what Kingdom Hearts is and where exactly the darkness and the heartless come from. And as they had to do that, or decided to do that, as the series went on, you end up with all these inconsistencies because it was never planned to be like that in the first place.
So, as we conclude Kingdom Hearts 1 and move on to the next game, where I assume just a long string of game retcons to the first game begins. We have Chain of Memories in 2004.
Actually, surprisingly not. Kingdom Hearts or Chain of Memories might be my second favorite in the series in terms of its writing. Like I think the concept and the writing in Chain of Memories is good and consistent with the original game.
Okay, so Chain of Memories, my summary of this one's going to be quite short.
You haven't played this one?
No.
Okay, I was thinking you might have.
There was a chance, but I did not, no. But Chain of Memories is, Sora has amnesia, sort of. It's an amnesia sort of situation.
He gets there, yeah.
Does the whole thing take place in a computer?
No, that's recoded.
That's recoded.
So, Chain of Memories, okay.
This is the game that introduces Naminé, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, do you remember how Kingdom Hearts 1 ends?
The secret ending or the actual
like,
ending?
after they seal the door, right? Sora on one side, Mickey on the other. Door disappears. And there's just, like, a windy road. And Sora, Donald, and Goofy walk down it, right?
Right.
And then it cuts, I think, maybe mid or after credits. They're in like a big grasslands field following that road still.
And the dialogue's in Japanese.
It's not.
Man, what am I thinking of?
I don't know.
Right.
And then Pluto shows up with a letter from Mickey and starts running, and they chase after him, and it plays the Traverse Town battle music, the da-na-na-na, and that's how it ends. Chain of Memories picks up right after that with them running down that road. And they run into our first appearance of an Organization 13 member, dude in black cloak,
Right.
which the series is too obsessed with those black cloaks. And that person leads them to Castle Oblivion. And Castle Oblivion is basically where the whole game takes place. And when you go into it, if you want to progress further up the castle, you will lose bits of your memory with each floor you go up.
Gotcha.
And the way that they contextualize all this, because the game was on the GBA and it worked with this weird card battling system. So they're like, the castle is governed by these cards, right? And the cards are basically, they take your memories and turn them into cards. And then so you'll get cards that correspond to the worlds you went to in the first game, and you pick one for each floor, and it makes the floor of that level into like a construct of your memories that looks like that place.
So hopefully one of the early cards that you get is not the knowing that the cards are your memories, because then you're just fucked. You're like, that's a weird, this is words, jeez.
Yeah, it's actually explained fairly well.
They're like diegetic cards, which I kind of like. Yeah.
So, and when, obviously, while progressing up the castle, Sora's losing his memories, and they're trying to, like, manipulate him, and he forgets Kairi exists, and they replace his memories of Kairi with Naminé, and it becomes this whole thing, until when he finally gets to the top and defeats Marluxia, who is the main bad guy in Chain of Memories, the pink-haired one with the scythe.
Right.
And
she has
then
this, like, bug antenna hair.
That's Larxene.
Ah, fuck.
Marluxia's a guy.
Oh, shit. Marluxia, that's, like, the most feminine name.
I mean, it's a made-up name.
It is a made-up name.
But anyway, and he is a feminine character. But anyway. So, and that's, once you do that, Naminé puts you inside that little egg thing and reconstructs your memories. And that's what's happening at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2. To anybody who played Kingdom Hearts 2 and is like, why Sora in a weird egg? That's why.
Okay.
It's like a stasis pod.
Yeah, I feel like looking at this list of games, and especially the release years, I feel like Chain of Memories has got to be the spin-off game that is most likely that somebody would have played between the two.
And you've referred to it as a spin-off game. And I think lots of people would also do that, when in reality, none of the handheld games are spin-off games.
Right.
They are all, like, relevant games to the franchise.
Including, unbelievably, Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key.
Yep, the mobile game.
Yeah, because that one seems the most like it just shouldn't be, like, story relevant. Yeah. But it is.
Yep,
it totally
sure is. And it's going to be very relevant going forward. Mm-hmm. I've actually beaten Kingdom Hearts 3 at the time of this recording.
Right. So if you haven't, make sure you pick up your smartphone and go to the App Store. This
anyway, any further questions about Chain of Memories? This is the introduction of Axel. He was introduced in this game. Him and Larxene, who is the blonde-haired girl with the lightning powers and the hair bits.
Yeah.
They're kind of introduced as like a duo. Because I was just re-listening to the World Ends With You episode the other day. We referred to as pink-haired corset girl and lollipop red-haired guy.
Right.
They're kind of a duo in that sense, like a Jesse and James thing, where they're the ones who, like, the enforcers that, like, show up and mess with Sora.
Does the name Organization 13 get dropped in Chain of Memories?
It does.
Okay, so they do actually talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the member that they meet before they go into Castle Oblivion.
I'm not 100% sure who that is.
I'm just gonna assume it's Xehanort for no reason.
I'm pretty sure it's not. It's probably Marluxia.
Okay, that seems fair, because they probably wouldn't do that and then just not have any explanation for like many years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, So we're moving on, and this is the one.
Oh, another important thing I should mention because it becomes relevant again, surprise, is this is where they introduce replicas. In the game, there is a Riku replica that they put the same memories as Sora into, like the ones about Naminé. So they both think that they made this promise to her to protect her, and it causes a conflict between them. And it was just like a thing in that game. It's like a plot point in the story that worked. And now they've brought it back in the third game, like the replica program, as if it's been a thing the whole time. And it's
been underfunded.
It does come up in 358 over 2 days, but also it's like a back burner plot point. And now it's like a big thing that's like super plot important in the third game, which is weird.
Okay, so one question that I have that's going to reflect any of this going forward. This is the first game that had this is the second game in the series, but this game had that card system because Game Boy Advance obviously limited hardware. Did other games in the series, other than the mobile game, which is totally incapable of having a Kingdom Hearts combat system, have a different combat system as well?
They all have different tweaks on the combat system. Birth by Sleep has a kind of a deck system that you kind of the command deck on the side, you put different abilities into it and you have a limited pool of things you can do. And 358 over 2 days also has a similar system where you have a little Resident Evil box thing that you slot your little abilities into.
Gotcha.
So they all have, and Dream Drop Distance actually kind of works in a similar way, where you just have the more limited deck.
You're opening my eyes here because I was talking to somebody the other day who's played the majority of the non-numbered games. If you don't count the Fight 358 over 2 days just because you have numbers in your name. And he mentioned a deck system, and I was like, no, they don't have that in 3. But I was definitely thinking the Chain of Memories deck of cards system. Anyway, so the next game that was released, 2005, is Kingdom Hearts 2. And it is actually, being the second game in the series and last that I've played, it is embarrassing how little I remember about this game.
I have a hypothesis about why. And this is where I think a lot of the problems and issues with the series stem from, is their decision for how to tell and execute the story of Kingdom Hearts 2, because the story is actually good in Kingdom Hearts 2. Don't like it as much as the first one, but it's still a good story and a good sequel. But they decide to tell it out of order because they have this separate kind of subplot or side story of Roxas as a character, and they drop you in at the last 10% of his story, without any context as to who he is. And it's on now that I am have the context of all the other games and I'm a big fan, going back and playing 2, I can appreciate that. It's kind of like a Metal Gear 2 thing, you know, where they do start you off as a completely mysterious different character and you're what the fuck's going on? And you didn't appreciate it at the time. But it's a really, I think, was a bad decision, because I think it's where a lot of those feelings of Kingdom Hearts story doesn't make any sense, I don't know what's happening, blah blah blah, friendship, blah blah blah, darkness.
Right, because the plot of Kingdom Hearts 2 overall is sort of a microcosm of the way that the story is told for the rest of the series, but it's for the rest of the series taken as a whole compared to Kingdom Hearts 2 by itself. Because you have all of these things introduced in Kingdom Hearts 2 that are impossible to enumerate, because you have Roxas shows up, and then there's a whole thing, and by a whole thing is dismissive and also ridiculously understating the amount of like crazy shit that happens just with Organization 13, and the fact that basically you see the entirety of its story in Kingdom Hearts 2 being like just wildly conflicted. It seems like the most ill-guided organization of all time.
Yeah.
Disorganization 13 is more like it.
Yeah, it's because you never really get to know any of the characters in it. They're all just
And there are a lot of characters.
Yeah, there's just kind of like anime bad guys. And you might think that having played Chain of Memories and having the fact that Organization 13 as a concept was introduced in that game might provide some meaningful context, but no. It does not, because pretty much all the organization members you meet in that game die in that game, with the exception of Axel.
Right.
And
because he's popular.
So, yes. And so you're just starting from square one with all those details. Like, the only relevant details you get from playing Chain of Memories are the situation Sora's in at the beginning and who Naminé is.
Right.
It's basically all you get.
So, I know, okay, so in addition to Roxas and Organization 13's, like, whole, basically, downfall and then the seeds planted of a rise again, that are in, you also get introduced to Xehanort, and the fact that Ansem basically has, like, it like a Gandalf situation where there's, like, Ansem the Wise, and then there's Ansem and then there's Sleepy Ansem and like and Angry Ansem.
Okay, so I'll explain this as well, and to the best of my ability without getting into stuff from future games. So basically, once you get about halfway through the game, maybe not quite half, but you hit this plot point that is a twist where the final boss from the first game wasn't actually Ansem.
Right.
He was actually a Heartless.
My years of research, I didn't even remember that.
Yeah. So, and the idea is that Ansem the Wise, right? There was a person called Ansem, but it wasn't who you fought at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. Was a guy who was actually blonde and has a nice blonde beard and was voiced by Christopher Lee. And he was doing experiments on the heart. That's all true. And then he took on this apprentice whose name was Xehanort.
Right.
And that apprentice ended up stealing his identity and carrying on his research under his name until eventually he either like tried to experiment on his own heart or he lost his heart for whatever reason because of his research went out of control. And he became a nobody and a Heartless. That nobody is Xemnas. And that Heartless was the Heartless from the first game.
Right.
The Ansem from the first game. And Ansem the Wise, unrelated to that, he's bumming around, though, in hiding.
Right. So, okay, so that's the mod from... I kind of, honestly, this is weird because, like, I know the shtick with Organization 13 and the fact that all of their names are just another name anagrammed and then they slap an X in there.
Yep.
For the life of me, I literally just didn't remember that Xemnas and Ansem were that was like that's the Kingdom Hearts decoded version of his name.
Yep.
So I kind of forgot about that, so that's probably important.
Don't worry, this all becomes even more complicated once we get to Birth by Sleep. So
I'm excited. One thing,
while I'm thinking about it, this is how complicated things get, that I forgot to mention in Chain of Memories. Once you beat it, you unlock what they call reverse rebirth, because Square Enix likes to name things really weird.
Right.
Where you play through the game as Riku. So there's like a second side of the story where Riku, after the first game, was in the Realm of Darkness, right? Mm-hmm. And he, King Mickey leads him back to the Realm of Light, and he ends up in the basement of Castle Oblivion. So he's in like basement floor 12 and has to make his way from the bottom of the basement all the way up to the top floor to leave.
Ooh.
And he goes through this whole thing where like Ansem possessed him, as you mentioned. You remembered that
I do remember
in the
this.
first game. and he's still like remnants of him are in there, and his story is about like overcoming that
Okay.
and conquering the darkness in his heart and leaving. So,
And that's actual him.
yes, it's
Okay.
actual him.
Yeah.
So that's also important,
Right.
and I forgot about it.
Well, 'cause it's important because in Kingdom Hearts 2, Riku shows his face as like the antagonist character.
He's doing shady shit in the background.
Yeah. Which is not the buddy. Riku always has like I was actually a little bit surprised starting up Kingdom Hearts 3 that Riku and Sora were on like solid terms again, because like my memory of the Kingdom Hearts series is that Riku is like a complete dickwad.
He's a villain in the first game. He starts out as a rival, then kind of becomes like an adversary, and then straight up a villain. But after that, he's kind of like an anti-hero in 2. He's doing work for the real Ansem the Wise, and he's going around with like a blindfold on because like he's using the power of darkness because he
Right.
thinks he's weak.
And because he was built by Yorha.
Yeah, because he was built by Yorha. And he's the one who actually fights and defeats Roxas and takes him to Ansem the Wise. And then Ansem the Wise puts him in the computer, and that's like how Kingdom Hearts 2 starts.
Right.
So but you don't know that's what's going on until later in the game when you find out. You rejoin with Riku at the world that never was,
Right.
and he joins your party.
Yeah, and then the final boss of 2 is
Xemnas.
That seems like a pretty decent recap. It's a better recap than the game. So what's Roxas up to this whole time?
Okay, so 358 over 2 days.
All right. Released in 2008.
Yes, is Roxas's life story basically. In Kingdom Hearts 1, in order to free Kairi's heart from his own body, Sora takes that Keyblade that Riku uses in that boss fight and releases her heart from his body, and as that happens, he becomes a Heartless.
Finally, fucking 6 years later.
Yes. He becomes a Heartless, and there's a cool part where you play as a Heartless to escape the castle. And so when that happened, it also created a nobody, which is Roxas.
Right.
And the game starts with him just being kind of like a droning, kind of comatose being, and then he eventually kind of like develops faculties, and he's, with Organization 13, he's got the black cloak on, they've found him, given him his uniform,
Right.
and are putting him to work. Got to take advantage of this while Sora's in stasis. So this is the year in between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, which is Roxas's existence.
Okay, so does this factor into why the game is called 358 over 2 days?
It does.
I'm going to put a tag like on the YouTube video version of this that's like, click here to jump to why is it called 358 over 2 days.
That the game like kind of has this, not framing device, but this little thing where it'll show you what day you're on. Like it's like kind of mission based, like you're doing missions for the organization, and it'll tell you like what day, because like assumingly he's keeping a journal, and it plays out over 352 days. But then at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2, you go through 7 days, and that all adds up to a year. So it's the 358 days before Kingdom Hearts 2. So 358 over 2
Gotcha.
days.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Before we go into the plot of the game, though, do you want to say like 2 cents on Coded, because we did skip it?
I have not played Coded, but I will give you my 2 cents on it.
Right. I do know that it takes place in a computer. Check the box for Chad.
So this game started out as a mobile phone game in like 2000 something.
8.
Well, it was remade as a DS game. That's probably the DS release.
No, it's 2010.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Because that's
this was
re-colon-coded.
this was like the infancy of smartphones.
Right.
And it was Japan exclusive. It was just like basically like a port of the original game to phones.
Bizarre.
Is basically what it was. And then they decided to give it a DS remake where they added shit to the story and made it like plot relevant. Like there's a thing called Data Sora in it. Like
it's weird.
It's very weird that they decided to canonize that game.
But like, does this have, or as far as you're aware, is there like a plot effect of this existing? Data Sora summon in
I think it's
game or something.
It's introduces like the plot element that like you can construct a heart from data.
Okay.
I think is what relevant information it gives to the story.
The presence of like data in Kingdom Hearts as a thing is also kind of unclear.
It's very weird, yes.
Yeah, because like they do go to Tron.
They do.
Which is pretty like specifically set in like the late 80s.
Yep.
So
through Ansem's computer, yeah.
Yeah. So like clearly computers are a thing, but this is now I'm speculating, and I'm the wrong person to be speculating. So what else happens in 3.5? Do we do 358/2 justice, or do we need more?
No, there's definitely more to cover in that one. So with his time in the organization, him and Axel kind of become best buds.
Mm-hmm.
And the replica program from, as it becomes later called, from Chain of Memories is put to use in the plot of this game because that's how they create Xion, which is they're collecting hearts, is what Organization 13's doing, because they want to like recreate Kingdom Hearts from a bunch of hearts. And so they have Roxas, but they're like, that's not enough. We need like another Keyblade wielder to collect hearts. So they take a replica and they put some of Sora's memories, that Namine's trying to put back together into Xion and create like another Keyblade wielding being, a 14th member of Organization 13 to collect hearts with them. And so Axel, Roxas, and Xion become like the three amigos.
Yeah, 100%. And this game actually, so this is the game that introduces Xion.
Yes.
And Xion's name is
it's just an original name as far as I know.
It could be Ion because she was lights and shit. I don't know.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's just an original name. Yeah, and it was until now just kind of all localized to that game, and that would explain why at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2 that like Axel shows up looking for Roxas.
Okay,
and that's why you have that sweet boss fight against him.
It is why you have that sweet boss fight. So 358/2 was on
the DS.
The DS. So was this one of the games that they put like the cutscenes in one of the collections?
Yeah, they put the cutscenes and some summaries, into the. This was on 2.5 remix.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I know I've seen parts of this before, and I think that's what it is. Mm-hmm. I know I've never played it.
This game is actually like really good, I think, narratively. Like Roxas's story is actually very well executed when you're actually able to experience the whole thing. Like he's a very like tragic and like relatable kind of character that you're really able to like sympathize with.
Yeah, Roxas is actually like I think at this point in the story, I feel like Roxas is sort of better Sora. Because Sora's just always kind of like doing his hero thing, like sacrificing parts of him and just smacking dudes.
Well, they really kind of changed Sora's character a lot, like kind of slowly over the course of the series, to where he's not really that great anymore. And now like Roxas and like Riku and pretty much any other character is just better than he is now. More interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so on that note, we move on to the dawn of a new decade, 2010's Birth by Sleep.
Okay, this is actually my second favorite game in the series. Not favorite. Second favorite game. It's a prequel story And you might have negative feelings associated with the word prequel because most of them are no good. But this one's very, very well executed. It has a couple of really, really cool plot twists.
Okay.
Yeah. This is
Ooh.
like just on the cusp of like my complete internet consumed life, where like I didn't even know this game was coming out until JJ had it and was like, here's this Kingdom Hearts game on the PSP, and I was like, what?
Right.
This exists? Like that, I kind of miss that being a thing that can happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, this game took me by surprise in pretty much every way, because even when I was young, when Kingdom Hearts 1 came out, but even back then, so like 2 came out when I was in like junior high. Even back then, I was like disappointed in like what I perceived as a downgrade in storytelling in the second game. So my expectations for where the story would go in the future were lowered significantly, and like this game like completely took me by surprise because the storytelling's really good in Birth by Sleep.
I know we're coming up on sort of like the later parts. Like a lot of the games that I'm looking at here have a lot of remixes in their titles. So did we miss at any point any reference to the like main plot point of the recap in Kingdom Hearts 3, which is the Great Keyblade War? Or does that come into play in this game?
It's in this game.
Okay, so I remembered that. All right, so set the scene. Who do we start off as?
Okay, so this takes place, I'm pretty sure, 10 years before the events of Kingdom Hearts 1.
Okay.
We are in the Land of Departure, which is where Master Ericus, voiced by Mark Hamill, a Keyblade Master, is training 3 apprentices, which
Mark Hamill's voice at one point came out of a PSP console.
It did.
That's very exciting.
It was beautiful. And his 3 apprentices, which are Terra, Ventus, and Aqua.
Yeah, I know this stuff. I'm excited. All right.
And it starts off, they're having their Mark of Mastery exam. Right, it drops you off right in the midst of this.
Right.
And Ven is the younger one, Ventus, who looks like Roxas, to be confusing.
Yes.
He's not participating in the test. It's just Terra and Aqua, and they have to like spar with each other. And also Xehanort is there.
Right,
he's also a master and
Xehanort.
he also lives there. He's like the other Keyblade master. But he's not administering the exam.
Okay.
For whatever reason. He's just hanging out.
Chilling out.
It's his day off.
Yeah. Xehanort's day off.
Yes.
But Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, colon,
0.3. Xehanort's day off.
Not quite final cut.
So during the exam, he does some like bullshit and like tempts Terra's heart with darkness.
Of course.
And he gives into it a little bit for power. Because of that, he fails the exam. So Aqua becomes Keyblade Master right there, right off the bat, and Terra doesn't. This makes him pissed and mad, and so he runs off like a crybaby, and the other 2 go after him, and that's kind of like what starts the whole let's go to Disney World's adventure.
Right.
It's a little bit rushed in that way, but it makes enough sense when you're actually going through it.
We're approaching, I think, the part of this game that made me like actually just be like, man, fuck this shit. So,
that's an oversimplified version, but
yeah,
it gets you right into the action pretty quick though. So you can play as 3 different characters in this game. You can play as all 3, Terra, Ventus, and Aqua, and the game recommends you play them in that order, and I would as well. So like, because the story, I think, comes off best that way.
Right.
So you play through Terra's story first, and it's all about, like, Xehanort is pursuing Terra because he wants to steal his body, basically. He wants to body snatch him.
Right.
Because he's old, and he's got this whole, like, I want to be immortal thing, so he needs to take a new vessel.
I've also heard, and I know this references the real Organization 13 as opposed to fucking, I don't know, the Mickey Mouse Club.
Uh-huh.
But For some reason, I've heard the phrase "norted" in multiple contexts, meaning that it seems like a decently accepted phrase. So we're saying that he tried to Nort Terra.
He did.
Yeah,
and
okay.
he is successful.
Oh, shit.
Because do you remember the secret movie at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2?
No.
Okay. The secret movie at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 is just what became Birth by Sleep. It's like this scene where these 3 Keyblade wielders show up in this Keyblade graveyard, right? Mm-hmm. And they all have cool armor on, and they have these like cool looking different Keyblades that look, different from the way they've looked before in previous games. And then Master Xehanort shows up, and at the time you didn't know who he was, and they have like this epic battle and whatever. And I remember everyone who was into Kingdom Hearts just like speculated so fucking wildly about that trailer. They thought like there were all these like fake JPEGs online of people making like fake logos that were like Kingdom Hearts 3, the Keyblade Wars. It was like all this stuff. People speculated about that like to death. And it ended up being this game instead and not Kingdom Hearts 3.
Right. Thankfully.
Yeah, so in the end, they have this that confrontation that's depicted in that cutscene, and you end up fighting Xehanort as Terra, and even though you win in the game, lose in the cutscene thing happens, and Xehanort steals Terra's body.
Okay.
And which is why Ansem and Xemnas both look like Terra. Is because Xehanort was using Terra's body when he lost his heart.
Right, and it's cheaper to animate.
I guess.
Actually, it might not even. They think they look different enough that they probably had to have different models and things.
Yes, they do.
That sucks.
But anyway, so that's how Terra's story plays out. He also ends up killing Ericus.
Which sticks 100%.
It actually does.
Yeah.
Because he's like falling to darkness or whatever, and Ericus tries to stop him, and he gets killed. But anyway, and then Ventus's story is that Xehanort found Ventus. I don't remember where exactly or what the story is there. And he tried to use him as his vessel, right? But it wasn't working out. Too pure or whatever. And so what he does is he splits Ventus's heart into pure light and pure darkness.
Right.
Which is
Ventus
Vanitas.
And Vanitas.
Yes.
Fuck that. Why?
Because Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
You need similar sounding names and similar looking people.
It's like one letter off.
I know. And so the idea there is to get both of them to fight each other, like pure lightness fighting pure darkness, to create the Keyblade,
right,
or the X-Blade, or the Kai Blade, whatever you want to call it,
I think,
which will summon Kingdom Hearts and cause like a rebirth of the universe or whatever.
By sleep.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, as a footnote, both for this podcast and also the one on Kingdom Hearts 3, if at any point the Keyblade comes up, we should refer to it as like the X-Blade or the Cross-Blade or something like that, in order just to avoid confusion.
Right. And so he goes through his story. He's trying to find Terra, is basically what Ventus is doing. And they don't meet back up really until the end with that climactic battle. And what happens during that is Ventus has this internal battle inside his own heart or mind or whatever with Vanitas, which he wins. He defeats Vanitas, and Vanitas is wielding the X-Blade because, they did clash and it was created.
Yeah.
So he has to stop him. He beats him, but this leaves him comatose. Mm-hmm. And so that's what the state he's left in at the end of the game.
Right.
And then Aqua's story is that she is told by Ericus to go bring Ventus and Terra back.
Right.
She goes through all the...
That's going to sound real weird, starting that... You're like, shit, I know this doesn't work.
Yep. And so she goes off on her little adventure.
It's like, I brought back their corpses.
Yeah. So they had the climactic battle at the end. Aqua has to fight Brig, who later becomes Zigbar,
Right.
who's basically there just to like distract her while these other things happen. And Mickey's also there. He helps Aqua fight Brig and Vanitas. You have to fight them both. Vanitas is both fighting Aqua and Mickey on the outside, and Ventus on the inside. He was stretched pretty thin mentally. That's why he lost. So that happens. Everybody loses.
Right.
Everybody winning the game, losing the cutscene. Aqua's the only one who gets away. She takes Ventus, and she puts him in the land of departure, right? Like on the throne, in that little I guess throne room.
Yeah.
That they had their exam in at the beginning, and she, it shows this flashback cutscene of Ericus explaining to her that if she should ever need it, that she can hide something in the castle and lock it away so she's the only one who can access it. So she puts Ven there, and she does that. She hides him there, and she shoots a little keyhole with the ray of light, as you do in Kingdom Hearts.
Right. There's a very notable, memorable gesture that was done.
And it changes the land of departure into Castle Oblivion, which is a sweet plot twist, which explains why you lose your memories as you go up to the top. You can never make it to the top because that's where Ventus is.
Right.
Which is a cool tie-in plot twist thing.
Except two people totally make it to the top.
Well, not all the way.
Okay, all right, okay. They just make it to the part where you can then go home.
Yes. If they would have gone any further, his head would have exploded.
Yeah, just...
But anyway. And then she goes to confront Xehanort, which is a word you've probably also heard.
Yeah.
Xehanort in Terra's body, which happens in Radiant Garden, which is what is the real name of Hollow Bastion, if you remember that from Kingdom Hearts 2.
I do remember Hollow Bastion.
That's where they fight. She defeats him, and then, the big Ansem shadow guy, that's behind him. He has that in that fight. After she beats him, it, falls away into, a pool of darkness, and he falls back into it, and he's sinking down into the darkness.
Right.
So she jumps in after him, and she saves him. She throws him out, and basically sacrifices herself to float down into the darkness, and that's why she's stuck in the realm of darkness for 10 years.
Oh, man. She's been in the darkness for a whole
decade.
Yeah.
And after Xehanort comes back out, he is found by Ansem the Wise in Radiant Gardens, how he becomes his apprentice and takes his identity and all that shit. But when they find him, he has amnesia, of course, after going through that whole fight and all that.
It's funny because it's like the game where you don't need it because nobody else remembers what he was doing anyway.
Right. I guess they thought him having amnesia made more sense than him secretly infiltrating this scientist's lab without knowing what it was first.
Right, yeah.
So that's how that all happens.
Ansem the Wise as a character really would be less suspicious if nobody had played Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yes.
The name, it's a loaded name. It's like if you named your kid Adolf these days. It can't just be a thing.
Right.
Okay.
I don't think I missed anything crucial there.
Yeah, as you're explaining this, I'm realizing this is obviously this is the important one.
Oh yeah, this should have been Kingdom Hearts 3. Basically, it should have been on the PS3 and marketed as a mainline series game.
Also, it would have had nice synergy with 3 and the 3 different stories that you do.
But it was on the PSP.
they gotta push that console.
They gotta put things on as many different systems as possible and give them weird names.
Branch them out, make people not think they're real Kingdom Hearts
and not
games.
market them as if they're actual Kingdom Hearts games and not just spin-offs.
Okay, so that is the game that sets up basically the events of Kingdom Hearts as a franchise.
Yeah,
and
that's what
the villain.
Yeah, that's what brings up most of the relevant plot points. For 3, that people who played 1 and 2 will have no idea what any of it means.
All right, so let's rob all of the weight that this game has given as we move a step forward to Dream Drop distance.
This one was kind of the nail in the coffin for me caring about the story of Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm. A coffin that has apparently just been burst open at some point, because here we are recording a podcast about the story of Kingdom Hearts.
Well, I mean, being invested in the way that I was. I obviously still care. But, so, I said earlier that this is kind of where the writing in Kingdom Hearts became a parody of itself. And it starts off by, they just made Sora an idiot in this game. They basically gave him what I referred to as Peter Griffin syndrome, where this same thing happened to SpongeBob and this same thing happened to Goku, right? They were characters that were like...
Pause the podcast right now and think to yourself of the Venn diagram. What's the overlap? What's our key factor
between
Goku and SpongeBob
and Peter Griffin and Sora?
Text your answers to 555. Go on.
They were all like these likable characters that had these childlike qualities to them, but were still written as like well-rounded, realistic characters. To some more than others, you know. Some are like SpongeBob, you know, is obviously like a kid's cartoon character.
Still very likable.
Yeah, but still, he was like an adult. He had a job, you know, like, you know. Anyway, and they take that and they just dumb it down to like, oh, he's like goofy. He doesn't, you know, like he forgets stuff. He says dumb things. Like they play up that childish aspect and basically make that the whole character.
And retroactively too.
Yeah.
Which is the worst part about it.
Also happened to, what's his name in Parks and Rec, Andy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he got super stupid.
If you watch like the first season, you're like, yeah, he's like a childish, immature guy, but he's still like an adult man. And then later he's like a man child.
Right, he can't care for himself.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're working with here. That's what they did to Sora.
Mm.
Gave him Peter Griffin syndrome. So that right off the bat sucks. There's all kinds of scenes of Sora going like, what? I don't understand. Like, things are explained to him and he's like, what are you talking about? Blah, 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 hearts, blah, 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 friendship. But like literally, that's now the dialogue.
Hypothesis. Could they have done this because it had been 10 years since anybody had played a Kingdom Hearts game, and they wanted Sora to be like an audience surrogate?
Mm-hmm.
And also, in Sora's defense, not in the writer's defense, because this is a bad decision really, no matter how you look at it, but in Sora's defense, this dude is like a ship of Theseus of internal organs at this point. Like, his heart's like been in and out, he's got different hearts inside of him, his brain got like fragmented and then put back together.
Yeah, he's been spending too much time with Goofy.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact, like, just totally like inconsequential to the plot, but totally a thing that would fuck you up hard. Mm-hmm. He was like also a lion and a mermaid. And he was Data, and he
was a Heartless.
He was a Heartless. Yeah.
It's been so many things.
Yeah, no, Sora probably isn't even the same Sora that we started with.
No, he's Data Sora the whole time.
Time.
But anyway, it's especially weird because all the other characters are, for the most part, written exactly the same. And it doesn't help that Haley Joel Osment's voice keeps changing a lot in between. You know, like, it's just weird. Like, the Sora we have now is so different from the Sora from Kingdom Hearts 1 and so different from the Sora in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, if you check out Haley Joel Osment's like IMDb page, the trivia thing, he actually went through puberty 4 times.
It kind of feels like he went through it at least twice.
Yeah.
Because, like, the Sora voice, you would think it would be the same now as it was in 2, but it's not.
No, super
Like,
not.
you can tell, like, his voice has become, like, a little bit deeper or raspier or something, and he has to kind of do the voice. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it sounds natural, and sometimes it doesn't at all.
Right.
But anyway, it's weird. Very weird. And then Riku sounds exactly the fucking same as he did in the first game.
Fucking 18 years ago.
It's just weird. It's
weird.
weird.
They show like like the behind the scenes in the voice clip, and he's like got a balloon around his head, like he's karate chopping the sides of his neck. He's like, "This is the only way I can make it sound again.
It's worth it." But anyway, so
the plot of this game,
they've dumbed down the writing of Sora, which I don't like right off the bat. So the plot of this game is fucking weird. Okay, so and I'm pretty sure Tetsuya Nomura was full in wrist deep on Final Fantasy 15 right now. So I'm pretty sure this game was largely handled by a different team than made the like main series games up till this point. And so we said that Birth by Sleep should have been Kingdom Hearts 3, right? In its importance to the plot.
Right.
This is basically actually Kingdom Hearts 3 because this was a continuation. It picks up right where 2 left off.
Gotcha.
And Riku and Sora are now taking their Mark of Mastery exam because now that's a thing we know, right? And apparently Yen Sid was also a Keyblade master. Retroactive stuff left and right.
There are an infinite number of characters in the series, and like most people probably can't keep track of them all. We didn't ever mention Yen Sid, and that seems like maybe a bit of an oversight.
Yeah, Yen Sid was Mickey's Keyblade master. And he
looks ridiculous.
Oh yeah, he's the wizard from Fantasia.
Yeah.
That short, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, that everyone knows. That's who Yen Sid is. It is Disney spelled backwards with a space in the middle.
Right.
So, and he kind of serves as like the mission giver, basically, in 2 and 3. He just kind of like sits in his tower with a cool theme music playing and tells expository dialogue to Sora and friends.
And his name is not Ned, which I thought
Ned,
when I started.
He's Ned Schneebly from School of Rock.
Right.
Played by Jack Black.
The Keyblade Master.
Yes.
Based on true events.
But anyway, what was I even fucking talking about? Oh yeah, Dream Drop Distance.
Yeah.
So you're in Yen Sid's tower, right? And he's like, you gotta take your Mark of Mastery exam. Which, for no reason at all, is going to involve diving into the dreams of sleeping worlds. Because that's a thing now. So you play the game as both Sora and Riku, taking the exam, and it works on this kind of cool, what they call the drop system, where you have like a time limit as to how long you can play as one character before you fall asleep and have to then play as the other character. Okay. And you can buy these items called Drop Me Nots, which will extend your time. So if you're having trouble with a boss or whatever, you can pop off a Drop Me Knot and have more time and not get taken out of it in the middle of the fight.
Right.
So that's kind of neat. And it works for the handheld game format, I think. But this is where flow motion is introduced. And I forgot to mention in Birth by Sleep is where the shot lock comes from. These are all mechanics that are brought back in Kingdom Hearts 3, which is why I'm saying this.
Right. I was actually going to, at the end of this, do a lightning round and just kind of rattle off some stuff, and then you try and tell me what game it's from. But this works too.
Yeah, and also from Birth by Sleep, there's like, I forget what they call them, but they're like, you use a move, and then you continue building up combo, and then it gives you like a finisher move.
Oh, like the what did they call it? The Keyblade form change Grand Magic.
That's what it is in Kingdom Hearts 3, but that concept comes from Birth by Sleep.
Gotcha.
As well. And I just don't remember what it's called in that game. But anyway, I digress. Flow motion's a cool concept. They kind of go overboard with it in Dream Drop Distance, where like when you use it, you do a shitload more damage. And the game's balanced around it, so like everything's got like massive health pools, and if you try to fight like a boss, especially with regular melee attacks, it'll take you like 5 hours to beat them. So you just have to spam flow motion all the time. But anyway, so you go through what are the sleeping worlds, which are worlds that fell to the darkness in the first game. But never like woke back up, never came back.
Okay. So still Disney Worlds.
Still Disney Worlds. Like you get there's There's a Hunchback of Notre Dame world. There's a Pinocchio world. You get to see his home world. There's a Tron world. It's Tron Legacy specifically, and it's got like the realistic looking people. It's fucking weird.
That's super weird, yeah.
Very weird. There's a Fantasia level, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, fortunately that was not in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah. So, and probably a couple other I'm forgetting. There's one based on like a Mickey Mouse cartoon, like it's a Three Musketeers Mickey Mouse cartoon, which I like. I wish they do shit like that more often.
Yeah, that's
something
dope.
more obscure. But anyway, so you go through all the Disney levels and you're being pursued, or like, you know how Kingdom Hearts is, villains will just show up in the Disney levels, like they're just shoehorned in there to give mysterious dialogue to Sora so he can be like, huh? Hearts? So
that's not how I remember.
Yeah.
That's how Dream Drop Distance.
Yeah, that's how Dream Drop Distance works. But so he's being followed by young Xehanort, and this is when things really just go right off the rails. We're now in the midst of a time travel plot where Xehanort, right, villain from Birth by Sleep, is sending his consciousness or whatever, his heart, through time to find 13 vessels for himself.
That's where
to
this weird
create
shit comes from.
the real Organization 13.
As I just texted the real Organization 13 in quotes to JJ when I was starting Kingdom Hearts 3, and his only response was just, fuck.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Yeah, because I think we all secretly hoped that they wouldn't lean into that shit this hard, but they sure did. But so, and it just makes no sense. So he goes through time as his younger self and finds like Ansem from the first game, Billy Zane from the first game, and Xemnas and like all these other characters, and like pulls them out of time to be in his organization. So it like puts this really weird retroactive spin on the other games where like, are they aware of this in those games, or is it a kind of thing where they're pulled out of time and then when they get put back they have no memory of it? I don't fucking know. They don't go into that. Whatever.
You can't just drop a time travel plot on people without telling them. You gotta get your Dramamine. You gotta bring your time travel pants.
You can have a complex time travel narrative, but you have to actually like set up rules and shit. Or you can have a more straightforward one where you kind of leave it up to the imagination, but it's got to be easy to understand. You can't have like a super convoluted, weird ass time travel plot like this and not explain how it works.
Right.
Which is what they decided they were going to do that anyway. So it's, very disappointing to have to play through that game and groan all the time about this stupid plot shit that's happening. So you get towards the end and there's this like, I don't know if you call it a plot twist or like this plot elements where Xehanort wants to use Sora's body as a vessel and is partially successful in doing so, and then you have to save Sora as Riku. You have to do what they've now called a dive to the heart.
Okay.
Which I think we've talked about this on the podcast before in whatever episode. So in the beginning of the first game, where you're in the stained glass tower area,
yeah.
That's now a thing that they've given a name to and made it part of the lore of Kingdom Hearts, where it's called a dive to the heart. That's a representation of a Keyblade wielder, specifically Keyblade wielder's heart, which is a place that you can actually go to. So Riku has to dive into Sora's heart to like reawaken him or whatever, to save him. And when he's in there, you have this sick ass boss fight with Ventus's Keyblade armor. Yeah, and it's like a really sweet boss fight because like it's like a white room and like the armor's like black goo kind of. So you're fighting it and then it'll like dive down into the white and it'll reverse the colors. So now it's a black room and he's like white. And it does like a shift and it changes his fighting style. Really cool. In terms of like boss fight mechanics anyway. And so you win, you save Sora, and Riku's made a Keyblade Master, and Sora failed his exam. Ha ha ha. And if you want a good example of them dumbing down Sora's writing, look up a cutscene of when this happens, because once Riku wakes up, Sora's already woken back up, and he's there with like Donald and Goofy, and then like, you know, it's from Riku's perspective, and you see Sora's back, and he like turns around, and he's wearing like glasses with the nose and mustache and like a party hat, and they're like eating cake for no reason. It feels like a Dragon Ball Z filler episode.
Right.
It's like, oh, we're all having a cake party at Yen Sid's house. It's like weird tonal whatever. And then they do even more dumb shit, and they're like, oh, Axel's got a Keyblade now. He's Lee. He's now a real person again. He's got a Keyblade. Why not? Because people like Axel.
Sure.
And now Kyrie's going to be a Keyblade wielder too, because we need 7 light
And
Guardians
13
of Light to fight the 13 Seekers of Darkness to create the X-Blade, even though that's Xehanort's plan, right?
Right.
But they at no point did they ever be like, let's not fight him.
Because that would
Like,
prevent
let's actually give him the 7 pieces that he needs to complete his puzzle, and not even once bring up the possibility of not doing that.
Right.
We're just going to do it. So they train Lee and Kyrie how to use a Keyblade, whatever.
Right.
And then they're like, we have to go save Aqua and Ventus and Terra, because it's clearly retconned, because Mickey was there and knew those people, and it's never been brought up before. And they shoehorn some like excuse where if he would have told them, they would have tried to rescue them, and they would have gotten lost in the darkness too, or some bullshit. And it's just like so much crap that's introduced that's super like not well thought out.
Right.
And then this game has to try and wrap all that stuff up and make it all make sense and tie it together.
I feel like there were like so many things there that I wanted to be like, but what about, and how about, but now the only thing I can think of is how much I liked Axel's like little circle weapons way better than him with a Keyblade.
Yeah, well, they barely show him using the Keyblade, which was weird. But the way he uses it is he holds it over his back like he held the whatever. You know what those weapons are called?
Not at all.
The wheel things he uses.
Chakras?
Sure.
That
sounds right to me. Like he held his chakras. And he like spins it around too. It's like, it's cool how they made him use the Keyblade.
Okay.
Because the handle of it is exactly like one of those. That was a tangent. I don't know.
That was it.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to go back over it in my head, and I have already forgotten like a lot of what happened there.
And yeah, it might seem like I totally hate that plot, because I do mostly. But like JJ hates it like 3 times more than I do. Like just bring it up to him, and lots of obscenities will fly around.
Yeah, we'll do that for you. Next episode, definitely NSFW. Oh yeah, I think that if my understanding is correct, the reason that they can't just not fight him is because the Seekers of Darkness are using the tried and true tactics of just bullying everyone into a fight.
Yeah, I mean
they can't
can
just provoke them forever.
That's fair, I guess.
I mean, I don't know if that's... It probably isn't. They're clearly not thinking rationally.
You'll have to clash with us, or I'll kill your whole family. Kind of a
that
thing.
kind of shit.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the long and short of it.
Okay. We're gonna group these next 2 sets of 2 together. And the first one, I'm hoping the answer is just no to this question. Do 1.5 and 2.5 remix add anything to them that actually changes our interpretation thus far?
Not that I can remember. In Kingdom Hearts 1, I think they added an extra Ansem report that ties into the existence of nobodies, like foreshadows that to tie it in. And they have the secret boss fight against Xemnas.
Okay.
That they added, but that's not real. That isn't really. That just ties to Kingdom Hearts 2, and not really anything to the whole overall story.
Right.
And Kingdom Hearts 2 just added in the Cavern of Remembrance, which lets you do a boss rush, basically, of all the organization members.
Okay. I actually did. That was the one thing I wanted to bring up, because I didn't know if that was, like, somehow going to be related because of the replica program, but it's all memories.
It's data.
Yeah.
It's the RE coded connection.
Okay. In that case, then the next set, and our penultimate discussion before talking about 2.8, is Key and Unchained Key.
Don't forget 0.2, Birth by Sleep, a fragmentary passage.
That's not on Wikipedia. That's a fake game.
Wow.
What? What are you talking? This is all new information to Chad.
So it's on the 2.8 final chapter prologue. They released a pseudo sequel to Birth by Sleep, which was Aqua tooling around in the Realm of Darkness.
Right.
And it was basically like a tech demo for KH3. Like, it was on the new engine and showcased the new mechanics. And I think at one time they wanted it to be a full game. Like, they wanted to make a Birth by Sleep 2, but they had to chop it down to like a 5-hour thing.
Okay, I now know what we're talking about. That's what I was going to talk about with 2.8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what that is.
Yeah. Okay. So then let's actually just tackle that. Is that pretty much all it is? That she's just in the Realm of Darkness being assaulted, basically?
Yeah, you go through like cool darkness versions of some of the worlds from Birth by Sleep, which is neat. It's basically just an extended glorified tech demo, but it does have some cool visuals, and it is nice to see that character again, because it's been so long.
And it is important.
It's important to the story.
Yeah, for the sake of
like what she's been doing all this time.
Okay, then
it does tie in. It ties her to the events of the first game, because she meets up with Mickey in the Realm of Darkness, and they end up at the climax to the first game, where you know how when they open the door and Mickey shows up for the first time?
Yeah.
That happens in it. Like, Aqua was there, and she was, like, fighting off some bullshit.
Right, she was just beyond.
Yeah, she was just out of sight. She was fighting, like, a boss so that Mickey could seal the door.
Right.
Which is, like, a neat idea, but the way it's executed is, like, really rushed.
Right.
So it comes off as kind of hokey.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first thing in the series to come off as kind of hokey.
Yeah. It's how it's, like, visually depicted is just kind of weird.
All right. So, and that makes, weirdly, the last set of things to talk about, Key and Unchained Key.
So, this is one of the weirdest things on the list.
Mm-hmm.
It started out as a browser game in Japan only.
Yes.
And it was just like it was set up as like a prequel to the entire series. Like, I think it's set 100 years before, I guess, Birth by Sleep. And it's just like showing like how there used to be a bunch of Keyblade wielders, hence like how there was a Keyblade war, you know. It's kind of setting the stage for that. But it's really, really light on story, and it's just kind of like a way to make an avatar and go through some Disney levels in a cute chibi style. Right. And, you know, it was just like a thing, like a casual thing that they had.
Yeah, it's like a super regular casual mobile game.
And then it got, I guess, popular enough that they ported it to mobile and released it worldwide and added extra stuff. And like, this is where it gets, and it's basically everything that gets established in this game is going to be important in the franchise going forward based on the ending cutscene of Kingdom Hearts 3. So it's way more important than you would ever have expected.
Okay. That is honestly kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, and I should have seen it coming, because on the 1.5, or no, it was on 2.8, they included a movie that tied into the story of the Unchained Key, or
Right.
Union Cross is what it's called now. They changed the name of it.
Well, I'm noticing there's also a couple of very important games that were released on Verizon Wireless's Vcast. Those are definitely they are useless garbage. Is what
Okay.
they are. Yeah,
But
not going
anyway,
to be important going forward.
so basically, Unchained Key or Union Cross, whatever you want to call it,
Cucks.
yeah, KHUX, cucks, as we call it. It's set 100 years in the past or whatever, when there used to be a bunch of Keyblade wielders, and the way it is there is the Master of Masters, right?
Mm-hmm.
He only wears a cloak, the organization 13 cloaks, everyone fucking wears that. There must be a retailer that makes bank selling those cloaks in the Kingdom Hearts universe.
Even like Mickey's got one.
Yeah, which is weird.
Also, just want to jump in here as me, Chad.
Yes.
The Master of Masters is introduced in the mobile game.
He's introduced in that movie that
And
ties
then-
into the mobile game, and he does appear in the mobile game. I don't know which place he appeared first.
Okay, that is wild because like I saw a video that
So,
was
like,
like
JJ?
important shit you need
Yeah.
to know.
So, like a JJ. Oh no, I told him to watch the movie. I was gonna say JJ who doesn't even know this character exists,
Right.
and he's as big of a fan as me, but because JJ has not played the mobile game, but he does know he exists. But anyway, so there's the Master of Masters, right? And he has what I think 5 apprentices or something, and they are the foretellers, and they each lead a
More like
union.
the 5 tellers.
Yeah,
am I right?
So they each lead a union, hence the Union Cross thing, and you pick one to join, and you
You do your mobile game.
and you
stuff.
do your mobile game stuff. And so each of them, like the Master of Masters has a book of prophecies, right?
Uh-huh.
And it basically is supposedly tells you everything there is to know about everything, right? And so he's like, each of you, I'm going to give each of you a role because I'm not always going to be around, right? And so he gives them all a role, and one of them's role is to like look after the book or whatever. And basically, it causes this conflict between them all, which is what inevitably leads to the Keyblade Wars. None of them trust each other, and he does disappear, so then that causes even more distrust and blah, blah, blah. And then there's they all have weird names, like Ira,
Apologies to anybody out there named
Ava,
Ira.
I can't remember, Envy.
Almost.
I'm trying to remember how many there are. I think there's like 5 or 6 of them. And one of them is named Lushu. And he's always wearing a black cloak, right? So you don't know his identity either or what he looks like. And his role is to take this black box, which is the black box Maleficent and Pete are looking for at the beginning of 3. And he's supposed to take his Keyblade, too, after he dies. And then just wait for whatever to happen. You don't get to... It's told... You're not given the details. It's a mystery as to what's in the box and what his role is. And anyway, and that's basically it, and that's what leads to the Keyblade War. And Ava's role, she's the one with the fox mask. They all wear cool masks.
Okay.
That's the union that I'm in. It's the most popular one, weirdly. I guess everybody else also likes foxes. And her role was to, like, collect a, like, choice group of Keyblade wielders, which were referred to as the Dandelions, that are supposed to survive the Keyblade War, like not participate in it, and like they're called the Dandelions because they're supposed to fly away, and they don't explain exactly how it happens,
But
like, so there's like
why
that's
not
how
the bird? What about something that traditionally flies?
I don't know,
And not something where you have to take a big logical leap to get there.
whatever. So, and that's how like life continues after the Keyblade War, because they picked some choice good boys and girls to survive.
Right. We got a regular Adam and Adam and Adam and Adam and
And
Adam
Eve,
and
Eve.
even
Yes.
situation.
And there's this whole other shit where like they picked new foretellers to replace them all. and like one of them appears to be like Marluxia's like real like self because he's got a dude with pink hair, but it's not really gone into. Like I think what I perceive to be the final like cut scene, like story scene in Union Cross or Unchained Key, whatever, is after the Keyblade War where they all meet up, the new foretellers. And so it doesn't actually go into it. I'm just pretty sure that that's who that is. And that's basically how they leave it off, and that all becomes relevant at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, because I think that's all going to play into how the story goes forward.
Yeah. And just like to sort of like wrap back around, I looked up, I just clicked on the Wikipedia link on this one, I found some names. We got Skuld.
Yep.
Chirruthy.
Chirruthy.
One more time?
Is that what it says?
It's like Chrirthy.
Yeah, I think it's Chirruthy.
Alright, I'm okay with that pronunciation. It's better than the spelling. Gula, that guy doesn't seem like a good dude.
Sure, I don't remember that one.
And, and then Luxu and Ava. Luke's, whatever. Shut up. That's what I got from this.
Let me see this.
I was literally like skimming a synopsis for capital letters.
There's dandelions. Yeah, Skuld is a girl. She's one of the new foretellers. Yeah, that's Chirruthy. That is what that says.
Also, Nightmare Chirruthy.
Yep. Chirruthy are basically like little companions that follow the Keyblade wielders around. Everybody's got one.
It's like a blade.
No.
It's like a friend.
Yes. Oh, also one of them is Ventus.
Oh.
And which makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, Larium, I think, is how you say that. That's Marluxia's real name.
Gotcha.
Ephemer is one of them. But anyway, that's most of them. Whatever.
Okay. I'm not a giant fan of any of those, but that's cool.
It's weird. I don't know where they're going with it.
Because it isn't, like, fleshed out at all.
Nope.
All right, and that brings us to the present day with Kingdom Hearts 3, and we'll spoil the plot right now. No, we'll spoil the plot in like a week and a half.
Yep. Make sure you finish that shit up.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to like break into your house and like make you listen to the podcast. Or will we? Do you want to throw any... I guess, not really, final thoughts would be a weird way to describe what we're doing. But, like, sort of like wrap-up notes. If you were talking to me, and you knew that it wasn't me, and therefore there's a chance that I would actually go do this, what Kingdom Hearts games would you actually recommend people play before playing 3?
Okay, so... as I stated before, Kingdom Hearts 1's my favorite game, and I would definitely recommend playing it, like the 1.5 remixed version,
right?
The HD version. If you have a PS3 or 4, you can easily play it. As I said, the whole series has this stigma for being confusing and weird, and it's memed about a lot. But the first game actually has really good storytelling and is an overall like great game, so definitely go play that one. And then I would also recommend playing 2 if you can play Chain of Memories and 358 Days in conjunction with it. That's the most recommended way to do it. And also I highly recommend Birth by Sleep.
And
but
then
other
watch
than
that 10-minute video.
Yeah, other than that, I cannot recommend any of the other games. Like, if you get really into the other ones and are really invested, then check everything else out. But the main pillars there, you should play 1, 2, and Birth by Sleep.
Yeah, and from what I understand...
3D is really important, but it sucks. So just like watch a Let's Play, read a synopsis.
Just listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like there aren't really any games in the series that are just outright, like, complete stinkers.
No, they're all fun to play. Like, Dream Drop Distance is fun. It just, the story sucks. And 358 over 2 days is kind of the opposite of that, where the story is really good and the gameplay is not that great.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like if you're nostalgic to Disney, or you really into Square Enix, or the mashup just seems weird and you like weird goofy shit, like there's a lot of appeal there and a number of different levels. Like I definitely recommend checking the series out.
And I would hope that you don't care that we told you the whole thing.
Yeah, if you've only ever played 1 and 2 and you're like intrigued, like there's plenty to dig into. Like,
Right.
Go for it.
Yeah, a synopsis, as has been proven on YouTube like 1,000 times at this point, a synopsis of Kingdom Hearts is not the same as an understanding of Kingdom Hearts.
The game, like I explained them in a from my memory very shorthand way, when I'm sure I got some things a little bit wrong. But like most of the games anyway are fairly easy to understand as long as you're paying attention, you know.
Well, I've been your student for the day. I hope everybody learned something. Thank you for listening to No Clip this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Well, were you paying attention, stupid? We're talking about Kingdom Hearts 3. And that'll be coming out in some time. And until then, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on noclippodcast.com or on splattershot.pro. I feel like with the amount of Kingdom Hearts shit I've been indulging in the past couple of weeks, I should get a new novelty domain. All of our contact information would include our email address, our Twitter, YouTube, where all of our episodes are posted with the cool art on the background so you can have full screen. Put it on a projector, make your neighbors really angry. You can listen to us on iTunes and Google Play. Give us a rating and a review if you want to make us like happy people. That I think that's it.
Yep.
There are just like too many things.
Yeah.
Here that I could make some kind of stupid joke about.
Open your heart to the like button.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Uh-huh.
Split yourself into a being of pure light and a being of pure darkness. One to hit the subscribe button, and the other one to ring that fucking bell. Send your body back in time. Send just your heart back in time, so that you could have been listening to the No Clip podcast for the last 3 years.
I know now, without a doubt. No Clip podcast is liked.